Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one in our series, Breaking Down Barriers. My name is Chris Igwe, and these particular sessions are inspired by my book, Breaking Down Barriers, My Journey from a Small African Village to the World Stage. Breaking Down Barriers. I take a chapter, I go through a few thoughts and ideas, share my insights, and I share a story as well to help you connect the two. So between my thoughts and philosophies, my ideas, my suggestions on how this affects everyday life, to a story that I use to help you at least connect and understand what I'm speaking about. Today we're going to talk about, this chapter is entitled Exercise Self-Discipline. Self-discipline. Now, I know a lot of people who have a real struggle with discipline, let alone self-discipline. Because for me, the self-discipline part is attached, it's two words, obviously, but the key word is self. Self, myself, how I handle situations, how I handle myself, so that I can then manage the whole process of being disciplined. Now, I'll come on to it in a minute, but for example, I run my own business or businesses. I'm an entrepreneur, have been for a very long time. Even when I was in corporate, I always run my teams, my departments, my responsibilities as if I was an entrepreneur. So how can I make my team, my business, my company better in those specific areas? And to be able to achieve that, you have to have self-discipline. There's a word that's maybe attached to it, but I don't really want to focus on that, is self-control, because self-control is very different. And I'll explain why. But let me start out with a quote which I have in my books, and this one is from Plato, and he says, "With self-discipline, almost everything is possible." From Plato, with self-discipline, everything is possible. Because let's face it, not everybody has the ability to control and manage and focus in a very clear way on what they need to do to get to a particular stage or a particular point. So what are some of the components of needing to have this self-discipline that you may need or you may consider? Well, it could be anything from organizational. How do you organize yourself? How do you structure yourself, your time, for example? How do you handle inefficiencies, or how can you be more efficient? How can you handle emotion? Are your emotions off the chart, or are you able to control them in a certain way? Which comes back to that point I made at the beginning about self-control. And then perhaps one of the key things is focus. Are you able to focus on A, what you need to do, and B, what you need to do to get to wherever you want to get to? Because those components are what are involved, and there are many. You can probably think of others, and that's okay. You could think of awareness or self-awareness or aware of other people. You can think about behavior. How does your behavior affect other people? But that goes into a slightly broader, more complex environment. I try and keep my videos as simple and relatable as possible so that you can see yourself in these different areas before we go off in different strands and different areas. And one of the key things for exercising or having this self-discipline is that it means that, in a sense, it protects you. It protects you from the vagaries of what other people want you to do, when they want you to do it, how they want you to do it. It means that in your own mind, in your own head, you are in control of what you want to do each step of the way. And that protection allows you to then remain focused. So when stuff is coming at you, you don't allow it to infiltrate your mind. I'll give you a very simple example. Again, running my own business, and I've been doing it for a very long time, people have often said to me, okay, so Chris, how when you get up in the morning and you go to your office, my home office, how do you do that? I just have difficulty getting up, and I'll put the television on or the radio or listen to, obviously not many people have radios these days, but switch on their smartphone and start to watch something. And maybe it's the news, maybe it's something on Instagram or social media or whatever, but they have difficulty getting going. I don't. I do not have that problem. Why? because I've told myself that in order for me to get to where I want to get to, I have to be focused, I have to be disciplined, and I have to make sure that stuff from the outside does not get into my space. Self-discipline is critically important. Let me give you another simple example. Let's say you have decided that you want to do something. Whatever that happens to be, a project, could be a private project, could be a professional project, could be a family project. Let's take an example of something which I used to do for the family when we traveled together. I would make sure that I was responsible for the logistics, if you like. In other words, getting us from France, where we lived, or we've lived in different countries, to the US. We would often go to Orlando, we had timeshare there, and that's where we'd go, and the kids would have a fantastic time. My role, my responsibility was to make sure that we looked at the flights, got the date set, where were we going, planning, organizing, getting the tickets, arranging for the taxi to come and pick us up, both here, and making sure we had a car when we got there, and then all the logistics involved in that whole process. If there was no discipline, if I was not disciplined, it would be absolutely chaotic. Anything from knowing the passports were all together. I was responsible for the passports. Nobody held on to the passports. I did. Setting up these systems whereby if the others around you don't have the discipline to do something, obviously the kids were younger then, and my wife, I wouldn't trust her to do that. It's not her skill set at all. What is it that is achievable through an organized process that you can put together? That is self-discipline. That is the ability to put one step in front of the other to get a process addressed and resolved. Now, for me, and maybe for you as well, one of the best ways of having that self-discipline is sports. I did a lot of sports, whether it was the high jump or athletics or the sprint, or whether it was rugby or football. When you're involved in sports, whatever level, could be amateur, could be professional, the key thing is you've got to go to training. You've got to train. And if you don't train and you don't train hard, you don't get better. So even if it's just once in a while you go out and play, which is not the best way, as you get older you may get injured, but sport is one of the best ways for us and for our children to learn that discipline, that skill that they have to acquire. But to acquire that skill, they have to have the ability to know, A, what to do, what not to do, and to listen when their teacher or coach is explaining something to them. And a movie that I've always loved, and you may love, one of the sports that I did for a very long time, went up to black belt, was karate. And in karate, you may remember the movie The Karate Kid, which I think had four eventual sequences or sequels, 3 sequels to the first one, so 4. The Karate Kid, if you remember at the very beginning, he was annoyed about the fact that he had to do the same moves over and over again, which was so simple and so basic. But he also started by cleaning this, cleaning that, tidying up, doing stuff which just drove him crazy, and he didn't want to do it. But his master told him, this is part of discipline. It's the fact that you do the things that you don't necessarily see why you're doing it, but it helps you structure your mind and get you very clear in what you want to do. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It was many, many years ago now. But there are others where that discipline of systems and processes allows you to improve. It allows you to understand the boundaries within which you operate, because with each day, that discipline gets better and better and better, and you improve. And isn't that what our expectation is of ourselves? Is to improve. Now, in my family, I have 4 children and my wife and myself. And I have to say that 3 they're not very disciplined, not very structured, and 3 of us are. Now, we all complement each other because in any family, that is what you need. So this is not a criticism. It's just saying some people have to work very hard at that discipline or self-discipline. Another very quick example, my daughter, who has 2 children, so we are grandparents. The number of times she would bring her son over, and the number of times she would forget something. On an occasion, she forgot the nappies, the diapers. How do you do that as a mother? Now, she's wonderful. We love her, obviously, and I gave her a list. I said, every time you're coming to see us, here is the list. Look at the list, review it, do what you need to, check the list, and make sure it's all there. So I do realize that for some people, it is very hard to do. Don't get me wrong, I fully recognize that. But if you can build these blocks, just step by step, little by little, you run your own business, okay. So make sure you're at your desk at whatever time you set. Don't be in your pajamas. Get dressed up as if you're going out. Don't be in your bedroom slippers or socks or whatever. Get your shoes on. I'm not saying dress up in a shirt and tie and get a suit on, but if you want to, that's okay. But you have to be in the zone. You have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You have to be organized. So as I round this off, I just want to say self-discipline is incredibly important. It is really the ability to structure our lives in a way that gets us going, first of all, so we start, keeps us going, and gets us to the goal that we are pursuing. And if you don't have a goal, that's okay. It's just a question of making your life easier. When my daughter forgets her son's diapers and we have to go out and get it, that's fine, we go get it, it's not a big deal. But it's just little things like that she gets upset because she forgot to do something quote unquote basic or simple. It's not a criticism. It's just an observation. Better structured you can make your life, better structured you can organize your life and yourself. It takes away so much of the unpredictable nature of the world we already live in. So I encourage you, it doesn't come naturally, like I say to everybody, but do it step by step by step. And then say to yourself, if you're not quite sure yet, how much easier would my life be? How much more successful would I be if I had that discipline that drives me forward? So I hope this has left you some thoughts and ideas. Please feel free to like, comment, and share. And of course, I look forward to seeing you again on one of our next videos. And in the meantime, and until then, goodbye.